what's your full name and what does it mean?
My name is Kaata Minah. Kaata is a Mende name. I'm a Sierra Leonean from Mende tribe. Kome actually means gathering. So it's like someone that get people together, someone that can, what should I say? Gather people basically. So that's the meaning of Kome. And Mina is my father's name.
And Minah, it means something?
I'm not sure. Mina is like a fish. So my people come from across the river. They're riverian people. So they're like fishes in Sierra Leone that they call Mina. It's kind of like sardines, but like really small ones. Yeah, so I'm guessing that's why they're called Mina, but I don't know.
Did your parents ever tell you why they called you this way?
So Kasa is my grandmother's name. My grandmother was a really strong woman. She was a defiant woman. She knew what she wanted. She was very stubborn. And yeah, so my mom named me. My mom actually named me after her mom. Kome is the name they gave me because I think they kind of guessed my personality, that I will be one of those people that will always be getting people together. But yeah, I think I was named after my grandma. That was the intent of the name.
So you said your grandmother was very defiant, and then the other part of your name is connecting people. How do you think that these names represent you?
I guess that's just also what I would say my personality is like. Not that I like the word defiance, but like, I think in a society, in a community, if you ask too many questions, then they assume you're defiant. So people are uncomfortable with asking, you asking why, especially because I think sometimes they also don't ask why. So if you're told something and you agree, you never you just don't ask why. And then there's somebody, I say, oh, this is green. I say, why is it green? But you don't know yourself. But you're like, so why is it? You're stubborn. Stop asking me why. So it just became one of those things where you're always asking so many questions. You're always on the other side. Why do you always want to know beyond this? So then I just got tagged. This one is the stubborn, rebel, defiance person. So I guess I just roll with it.
Interesting that you talked about rebel, but you also talked about a community or a group when you start asking questions. So, in what type of community did you grow up? What did your family look like? What was the dynamics?
Yeah, I grew up in a very, should I say, tight-knit family. I'm the second. I have a brother who's our eldest, and I have a little sister. And it's my mom and my dad. But my dad's job requires traveling because he's a diplomat. So I guess what happened was when we were younger, we started first at Nigeria. And then we traveled, and then we came back to Sierra Leone for a bit, went to Liberia, came back, and they had to keep going. At one point, I stopped going with them. But I think because of the fact that we were not in Sierra Leone or grounded in Sierra Leone all the time, so we just became the three of us, like me and my siblings, really, really close. Our moms, the center of our lives, left her own job, became a homemaker, taking care of us. So it was just that family. Like, we're close, we banter with each other, everything is basically, my mom says we don't take anything serious. Even when the worst thing is happening, somebody's going through like the worst stage of their life, we will find something to joke about it. So like, that's the family I grew up in. Like, sometimes I say we were raised in a bubble, because there was a time when I left the bubble, I was like, oh my God, this is what the real life looks like. Yeah.
So you said Liberia, Nigeria. So can you take me through your migration journey?
So I think it started from what I can remember. I remember from Nigeria because it was during the war. That was like wartime. And my dad was working at the embassy there as the head of chancery. And so I went to school there, probably maybe class 2 to about class 4 or so, second grade to like 4th grade. Yeah. And at that time, so before we left for Sierra Leone, I was much younger, probably 5 or 6, around those age. So I remember things, but not like, but yeah, I remember there was a war. I remember we left. I remember things were not as they were supposed to be. no, it's not like anybody was explaining, but as a child, you get the vibe. I remember my mom had to start working at some point because I guess money wasn't coming in as they expected. So she also needed to start working. But I also remember us playing a lot, riding bicycles. My brother used to hate till today doesn't wear a shirt. I was like him too. Me too, passing around the place, not wearing shirts, following him all over the place. Clearly nobody's caring what you look like at that point in time, whether it's a girl or a boy. So yeah, that's one thing I remember. I was never a girl in the sense of what a girl is in my home. So in my home, I was a girl in the sense of, if, for example, I have a big brother and he shouts or he wants to hit him, my dad is like, never do that. It was never who's going to. My brother cooks more than every one of us. He loved the kitchen. We did not. He will cook. We will eat the things so good run our belly. But yeah, so I remember that in Nigeria, coming back to Sierra Leone, I think we spent like a year or half a year. And then my dad had to go work in Liberia. And Liberia, basically, I say this, that as I say, I am an African citizen because Liberia then became my home because that's where I went to like high school all throughout. I met people, I knew people. I finished school there. At one point, I didn't even want to come back home. My mom it was time to come back to Australia. I said, no, let me stay here. I want to go to university here. My mom said, nobody's leaving you here. We're all going back home. So yes, Liberia is where I then had friends and felt like my home at that time. And as a teenager and everything, going back home now to Sierra Leone. And then I went to university in Sierra Leone, but then I was already rooted in Liberia in terms of friendship. So it meant that I needed to start a new life, making new friends. It's easier to do that when you're all in the same high school, growing up but university friendship, I saw it was different. It was a whole different dynamics for me. Yeah, but that's the journey to coming back to university in Sierra Leone.
So you were younger when you left to Nigeria and came back. How did you said that you really wanted to stay in Liberia, ended up going back, and even it was difficult to connect and make new friendship. How did you feel coming back?
Yeah, I think that's when the bubble burst when I went back to Freetown, because I think one of the things our parents did was shelter us from a lot of things. So we had friends, we go out, but the circle was never out of the circle. You know what I mean? And we knew things, but yeah, we didn't really know things. And then I came back to Freetown and it just started with the little things like friendships, just maintaining friendships. At that time, I went to university. My cousin, in where I come from, we don't have cousins. So everybody's our sister and our brothers. So my dad's elder sister, daughter, who I call my elder sister, came from the UK. She had a car. I just went to the university and she's like, I don't live here and my kids are here. You can use the car to be going to school. So which means I came out looking like I'm high end because I have a car in universities. Other people had a car, but then you're defined as, or, this person is, you have money, right? So friendships were a little bit hard at the beginning because I'm used to friendships that nobody cares what you have. The friendship I was used to, for example, if we go out, we're all struggling as to put the money together, or somebody will tell the other person, I don't have money. The other person said, don't worry, I'll go and take money from my parents. So it was I never saw the money parts, like anything that you bring. I just saw like a friendship we're building. And then I came and then everybody assumed because I had a car, I had to, at some point, the friends that I had with people think because you have a car, you're high end, you have money, so you have to pay for things. And I was confused about that. Not like it was different. And then I say this all the time. Like, one of the things that took me completely out of the bubble was the way, like, there were people you trusted in terms of men that are like older. And then what was weird, at some point, somebody that I felt like was connecting with somebody that's my own family hit on me. And I'm like, and this is me. I didn't see it. Like, I'm not seeing it coming. I'm just being like, oh my God, I like him. He likes my cousin or something. And like, Then he calls and he's like, I just want you to know that I like you more than your sister. I was like, what? People do this?
Oh.
It was hard for me to make friends because of a certain expectations of people from me. And at some point, I had a friend and I felt like she felt like she owned me. Like if I stand up, I have to be able to tell her where I'm going. I was like, oh, this is too much. But then, yeah, I did have friends. I ended up making friends, but yeah, it was tough because, and then I felt like moving around it has its advantages, but the disadvantage of it is you don't sometimes feel like you're rooted somewhere. So that for me, that was my experience that was different because then I became me. I was the most social person, and then I became a little bit out of the social field, and then yeah, that was a whole different learning for me.
What do you think about, so now you're in Sierra Leone. Do you have any wishes or plans? Because you've moved around, then you stayed, and you said something about not feeling rooted because you've moved around. But do you have some aspirations of going somewhere else? And where would you go if you were to go somewhere?
I love moving around. I think now I've been rooted in Sierra Leone. I've been there for too long. I have too many friends. I know the community. I know people. Like it's home now. Like that university was good for me. I think my brother and my sister still struggle with that because they left, and yeah, I'm their roots in Sierra Leone. Basically, when they want something, is me they call. So, but they're also very reserved people, so they don't care much about things like that anyways. But yes, I love to move around. I feel like it exposes you. It makes you learn new things. And one of the things I tell people, especially in Sierra Leone, when they take like there will be a small thing, like for example, there will be the news that will make the news is basically somebody leaked somebody's nudes. That's like, guys, this is like this happens every day. Like it's okay. Nobody died. They're going to survive it. Like it's okay. It's not a big deal. So that's the thing it gives you. It gives you a different perspective. Like the things you feel like this is set on stone, and you go to other communities, it's like nothing to them. It grounds you in your beliefs, but it also makes you accepting. And that's why. And I say this, I've been saying this for a while that I love it here. I love as in the continent, Africa will be, I don't, if I'm moving, for now, my interest is Nairobi. I think Kenya will be my next home if I'm planning to move out. I went there and I just fell in love with the place. I don't know why, but yeah, I think it will be Nairobi.
Did you have a moment in your life when you realized that you were African?
Uh, I always knew I'm African. But it was never a thing about are you African, right? Because I lived here, I did everything here. And then I started leaving the continent. I remember when my parents were in China, I used to go there every summer for the holidays to be with them. And my sister and I will stand waiting for taxis. We're the one right in front of the taxi. Taxi has stopped, but then there's a Chinese that comes in front. And taxi will drive, boom, and take the Chinese person. There, there's something wrong. Like, I don't identify here because the color of my skin is different. Chinese people are very interesting people. They come to the point where, and sometimes it's due to ignorance, some of them, they see you. My dad is really dark, like really, really dark skin. Even I, there's a little bit of light skin. The people that come to you and touch your skin like this, like literally, like it's fascinating for them. At first, I will get mad. And then I realized that I don't think these people have seen so many dark skinned people themselves because they're not really far from us in terms of exposure and things like that. And since my dad is really dark, it's fascinating for them. Like when he goes to a space, he's the celeb in the space. And in those moments, you know you're different, right? When you're here, you know you're different because in our society, when we have strangers come in and they're white or they're different skin, we sometimes give them priorities over our own people. But there, it's not like that. Like the moment you step at the airport, you know that I I am landed somewhere different. I am different in this space. So it's traveling out of Africa that actually made me realize that sometimes even the preference we give strangers that we don't give ourselves is a problem, because if we're not giving ourselves that and they're not giving us that out of here, then something is wrong. And yeah, then I think a defining moment though was when I did my master's in Ireland. So it was the COVID and everything was done online, but I was there for a bit. And I went to the grocery store, and an Irishman, probably speaking Irish because he wasn't speaking English, or his accent was too thick that I couldn't understand his English, but he's literally shouting at me to get out of the grocery store. And I was scared at first, but I was like, no, I'm not going to let you intimidate me. So I just stood up and just looked at him, and he kept shouting, and then he just left. And I knew I didn't do anything to you. I didn't speak to you. I just came to get my own supplies, and you spoke to me like that. And that's when I knew, like, yeah, some people are just not it. Yeah. And I'm African. And of course, this is why I'm being spoken like that. Because if it was a white person, even if he was not an Irish person, but because of the color of their skin is white, I don't think they would have done that to that person. Yeah. So it's those little things, well, not so little things, that make you realize somehow you're different.
So you talked about being from Sierra Leone. What do you think it means to be Sierra Leonean?
Is to love the beach. Everybody's tired of me saying that. So they were saying to me, oh, there are beaches here. I was like, please, I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying I come from a country with like white beaches, brown beaches, black beaches, like any beach in the world that has also not been touched by anything. Because one thing, we're poor. We don't promote it in ways that we're supposed to. But even with that, it's like one of the most beautiful place or the most beautiful beaches in the world. So to be Sierra Leonean is to be proud of your beach. So most Sierra Leoneans you meet, and when people are talking about beaches, the first thing we do is like, please, to be
Check it out.
yes. To be Sierra Leonean is also, it's a love-hate relationship. It's a beautiful, loving culture of people, of community, of people loving you. Like sometimes some people don't even know you. They just hear your name and they connect your name to somebody else and they're rooting for you. But it's also a small country where you see the prospect of how big it can be. And then it has been from one thing to another. It's been war, it's been Ebola, it's been bad leadership, it's been bad governance, it's been all of those negatives. But it's also, even with the frustration of the negatives, and I say this all the time, every time I'm like, I'm going to leave this place. I'm leaving. I want to leave Sierra Leone. And then I'm here now in Dakar 3 days, and the hotel says, I'm homesick. I want to go home. So it's always some, like I say this to my friends, it's like some toxic love relationship. Like you say to yourself, I'm done. But somehow you're still going back to that lover every single time. But yeah, to be Sierra Leonean is acknowledging that the love is deep, that your roots is deep, that the green, white, and blue is literally your identity, no matter whether you like it or not. Like that's the only place in the world where it feels like this is my space.
So I like this analogy, the toxic relationship. So, but what do we tell women when they are in toxic relationship?
We tell them to leave.
So,
but then it's when it comes to a country, then it's not black and white, right?
So what can we do to help Sierra Leonean want to stay or leave and come back? But what can, you talked about a lot of these aspects that are usually like waves, ups and downs, and it's deep, it's difficult, it's hard. At the same time, it's a beautiful place. What are the things that you feel that could help change the country in a positive way? But also, how can you as Kaata do that?
You sound like our leaders. They say, oh, everybody's complaining about the place. What are you doing to change things in the place? And I think it's a good thing to think about how can I contribute? Like it's much more than just this is the problems. Like just sitting down complaining, this is the problems. I think, to be honest, we have a lot of we've been through a lot of leaderships that are not particularly good leaderships, and we're an African country, corruption and all of that. I think one thing that we take for granted is where all of this starts from, like the roots of this, right? So if people say our leaders are corrupt, they didn't get up today to be corrupted. It started from their family units, like it started from homes. And these people don't just get up and be leaders. Every single one of us I could be a president one day in Sierra Leone. But I take the values and the morals and the things I've been taught into the person I am, because I am a whole person. I'm not just a president, right? I am somebody's son in this, I'm putting like saying a president now, somebody's daughter, somebody's sister, somebody's teacher, somebody's mother. So all of those identities you go with. I think that's the one thing we have lost. We're not going to the roots. We're just finding issues at the top, which of course people have to take responsibility when they're at the top too. But I think what needs to change is how we raise kids and how we raise ourselves to see government as an enriching thing. And it's an African thing. Like the moment somebody goes into governance, it's always about what can they get out of it. It's not what can I give. And sometimes it's also not their fault, right? Because if you're the minister, for example, they said they've appointed K as minister. Oh, my family is thinking, oh, she's rich now. Everybody's going to come and start asking me for money. That sometimes I don't even have the money as the minister, but it's government, there's money somewhere, you'll find money somewhere, but that money somewhere is not for this. And this is how these things happen. And we all not taking responsibility from them, because I think at times, again, integrity is important. If your integrity means that this is not, and this is something that is killing, you can leave. You're not tied to that. I know it sounds easy when I say it, but you're not tied to that if it's against who you are. And I think if we have a few people, so I think the circle is breaking these old ways of doing things, because everybody that is coming to the old system. And I'm pretty sure a lot of them have good intent to change the system. But when they come, maybe it's one or two, three people, then the system sucks you up. So it's like building a good community of people that will say, maybe don't even do it long term. Say, I'm coming for 2 years just to scatter everything.
Kaata is here.
I'm going to be the sacrificial lamb. They're going to hate me. Like, be intentional that you're going to receive nothing but hate. But I think it will go a long way. It's hard, I know, but I think it'll go a long way. But for myself, as a person, I used to really, really think, and maybe it will still happen, but I used to really think I will someday be in the politics, life politics of things. Not anymore. For now, my path has gone to women's work, women and girls work, fight. No, I don't like to say fighting, but yes, fighting for women's rights, girls' rights, just to be yourself, just to be seen as a human being, the things that other people have, other people being in Africa, the other gender, male have, and seeing that this is what everybody is supposed to have as opposed to that. So most of my work is centered around girls' work, centered around building power, transforming power, and working with girls and women in communities and the movements, and to make a positive light. And I also volunteer as a lecturer at the University of Sierra Leone. So I lecture with the gender department. And yeah, that's my contribution to the society.
So yeah, it's interesting what you were saying, that before, or at some point you saw yourself as a politician, and then you said, but what you're doing is highly political. So why do you think it's different?
I don't think it's different. I think the governance aspect, like the national governance aspect, I think my work is highly political, because if you're asking your government for examples, saying in an African society, people have right to abortions, that's very political. How dare you tell somebody that somebody can just get up and say, you have right to abortion. And just not saying I have a right to abortion is also saying that I need you to say that I have a right to abortion. And the way you say that is through policies and papers. And that's fighting some sort of traditional and cultural understanding of what abortion is. And you choosing to say, but that's not what I see it to be. There are different lights, there are different ways to say it. And you're dealing with politicians, you're dealing with communities, you're dealing with your parents
Yeah.
who sometimes don't have the same beliefs as you because they were also raised in a different way, which is fine. Yeah, so I think it's really political. And I think if it's not political, then it's not it. It has to have a politics, right? I think the work we do, and this is why sometimes people say they're human rights defenders, they're gender experts. I say I'm a feminist because it comes with a politics that I believe that women have been marginalized and women need to take the space or on that space to reach to some sort of equality. So that's the political stand, that the politics is equality and is rooted in a certain politics of dismantling patriarchy, that as opposed to, yeah, I believe in human rights. Yeah, I believe in human rights. Women are humans, right? But I also believe that to say human rights, as Chimamanda say, is taking the light away from the person that has been oppressed all this time and putting them at the same line with everybody else. So yeah.
When you talk about the fact that you're a feminist, when you say I'm a feminist in Sierra Leone, what do you think or what do you hear from people? What do they think about you or what you do or who you are?
I am a feminist. Feminist. But the thing about it, I also want to say I've grown in my feminism. But you know, when you say in the typical African society, the feminist word is she doesn't want to listen. They don't want to take control. They want to be like men. Oh, my favorite one, they hate men. And I said to people, the feminists, I know the way they like men. Yeah.
Tall, dark.
So exactly. But that's the interpretation of what it people see it like. At first, it will annoy me. At first, I thought I need to prove to these people that this is what feminism is not. But I then over time realized that I don't want to get stuck in an argument of proving to you that I'm a human being. I want you to see that I'm a feminist because there was a time in our lives where our mothers could not work. But now that's different. And that was done because of feminists, that they can have a career, and I can have a career and still be a homemaker. Is because feminists fought for that. There was a time in the world where women were not voting. They could not make decisions, and people stood up and fought for that. There was a time in the world where women could not go to school, and people stood up and fought for that. And I think those are what the feminist fights are about, like recognizing that. So I realized that I'm not going to get into the she doesn't want to cook for her husband. Those are the petty arguments. And I'm telling you that right now we're asking for more things for girls. We're asking for rights for girls. We're asking for education for girls. You're not talking about that. Those are feminist fights. Why are we talking about who is cooking? Who is hungry is going to cook? Why is that a big thing? So I have grown in that space. So now what I do with the feminists is how I introduce myself. Because I know if I introduce myself as a feminist, if you're intimidated, this is where the conversation stops, right? Then I know you already know my politics. So my essence is very political. I stand and I say I'm a feminist. And if you know that feminists are troublemakers, you don't talk to me anymore. But if you know that, I like the ones that say, me too, I'm a feminist. I have a mother and a daughter.
She's a daughter. I realized.
Yeah.
You came from a woman.
Yes, those two are the feminists. Those are the feminists. I say, yes, that's what feminism is about. I too have a mother. So yeah, those people now want to prove to you now that they are also feminists. But then they start telling you, you do too much. You have to do it small. Yeah, but at least they're feminists. Yeah, so in a general context, yeah, a feminist is literally the troublemaker. You're here to cause chaos. You don't like the system. At one point, yeah, and I said, yes,
Imagine.
we don't. Like, we don't like this
It's
system.
oppressing us. Why are we gonna like that? What is going on?
Yeah.
It's oppressing men too.
Even you, that's what I say to men. I say, even you really want to be in a system where you use the word control? Why would you want to control? Why? You don't want to be free. There's so much pressure on you.
Relax, just soft line.
Right, just calm it down.
So who pays for the first date? I'm just talking about these questions.
Who knows, right?
We're talking about politics. People talk to
You're
you.
a feminist, and then
What do you think about
50-50? Why? Why are we? Why is this
the topic?
the topic of? It's deeper than this, guys. It's not. If feminists are not fighting for a world for themselves, because I know when the world is good, all of you are going to enjoy it. So you should really be grateful to us that we're doing this for you. Like, because if not, we're not going to kick you out of the world and say, because you're not a feminist, you don't believe in our fight. So this world we're fighting for means that you're out of it. No, you're part of it. So even if you hate us, know that this thing we're doing is for you and you're loving it. You're benefiting from it. This is the privilege you get from it. But yeah, that's what the world will look
So
like.
you said something about freedom and what freedom looks like to you.
I think for me, coming from an African society where it's Sierra Leone society, where people are very hypocritical, everything they do, but they do it underground and nobody sees it in the open, and they term those things bad. But they do the bad things, but in the open, nobody sees it. So they're good people. So everything they do is try to judge, right? You go into spaces. I think even my appearance in spaces, it tells a different story. I say even my appearance is an appearance of resistance. Not because I want you to think I'm resisting you, because I feel like for years, this is how I want to look like. But you grow up and there are families and, there's standards in a family. You're the first daughter. When you're growing up, this is how you dress up. This is what you do. This is what you don't do. And then you go to a space where you're having boyfriends and lovers, and they also have expectations. I don't want my lover to look like this. My lover should not look like this. So for women, for a long time, you don't find yourself early. And I say this with so much love for women that sometimes I tell people that if you're thinking of settling, then wait after your 30 years. We don't find ourselves early because we move from one space of telling us what to do as African daughters to go into space of lovers, because we saw our moms also loving our dads in ways where our dads told them what to do. That becomes our natural. So we get into that space ourselves. No matter how feminist we are, most of us will start that way. And then the more we get along, and this is the freedom part, is you start thinking that this is not the path I want for myself. I want to be able to cut my hair and still be the brilliant chick you see. Like, I have sense. I'm not senseless. I'm very intelligent. But because you look at my haircut and you think, because there's this notion that cutting hair is for loose women, you don't even experience me as a human being. It's my appearance you see first. You've already judged who I am. And then I open my mouth in some spaces. I say, oh my God, you're so smart. I say, what did you expect? Did you think it was a fool that was coming in this space? So it's that freedom that I can appear in the ways that I appear, and you look to see me, in me, my humanness, my human, who is this human, as opposed to what does society say a woman should look like, right? They will look at you and there's waist beads and there's foot beads and there's everything. I don't know. Sometimes my sister says to me, you just remaining the tattoos and the nose piercings. And I say,
the one who asked, can you see my ring?
yes. That was me. I was like, are you sure my ring is showing in the picture? I need you to see my ring. Yes. And so that's the freedom. And sometimes it comes with a cost, because even me that think that this is being free, there's spaces I go, sometimes I question myself, do I want to appear like this? Do I want people to just judge me firstly just by these things and not get to experience me, should I tone it down a little bit? Like, do I need to tone it down? And there are times I've done that. There are times I have to tone it down. Like, I remember when I came here, I liked to wear shorts, but everybody was fully dressed. For the past 2 days, I've been confused because I also don't want to be culturally incorrect, right? I also want to respect people's culture. So when I asked the Senegalese, I said, do people wear shorts here? And they said, yes. I said, really? I said, is it okay for me to wear shorts and go outside? And they said, yes, you can. But a man never comes and start thinking, do men wear long trousers here? Do men wear short trousers? It's not a thing. But I had to think about that because I looked at everybody else and see how they were dressed, and they were properly dressed.
Properly.
For lack of a better term, they were properly dressed. And I was like, and I'm not used to dressing properly.
So when you went out with your shorts in Dakar,
nothing happened. Nobody even cared. Nobody saw me. But it's because also, I think I also came with the prejudice or the notion that, so I came from Guinea too, and I saw Guineans were nicely dressed in their Bamako. I was even like, oh my God, these people can dress like fully with the hijab. It was so beautiful. And I was there with my shorts, and I came out of the hotel to get something outside by the car, and the security literally begged me to go back inside. Like, so somebody said to me, oh, we dress a little bit modest here. I don't know what modest is. Yeah, I thought I was dressed modest because I was at the pool and I'm wearing a swimsuit. But anyway, they said they're just a little bit modest there. And it's also a Muslim state. Here is also a Muslim state. So I think I came with the assumption that because of the nature of the religion, maybe people don't. And I don't, not that I care, to be honest, but as not that I care that I want to dress like them, but I also want to be able to respect that this is not my space. This is a people's space. I don't want to just come in like that. But I was happy to be told. And since then, I think I've just been in my normal, proper dressing that makes me feel comfortable. And I think that's the thing. Like, if you feel comfortable in what you wear, it doesn't get to you.
Yeah, but I think that I always appreciate travelers or whoever we say we are. I think it's the first thing that you would do anywhere, right? Ask if it's okay to be you in the way you show up in your own space and not necessarily compromise about who you are, but
respect
adapt.
other people.
Yeah, adapt. And sometimes you adapt a little bit and you realize that you really want to go back to your place because you don't want to do this for too long.
Yes.
But there is something that you said before. You said that you have two beautiful daughters. How old are they? And so in that journey, your own journey as a feminist, how do you bring them in, or who are you as a mother of two beautiful girls?
I'm the fun mom. They love me. They know that I'm like the cool mom.
We're sure.
They know I am the cool mom. Different hair colors.
Exactly.
And my eldest is 9, and she says, my friend says your hair is so nice. Maybe this time you've done pink. Maybe next time do yellow. I said, no, even me, I'm not doing yellow on my hair. Because it's I'm not here for your street cred, please. But yes, my girls are 9 and 4. And I think that they have a loving community of people, like my parents, my sisters, my brothers, my uncles, my nannies who are now their mothers that like love, they have that rooted in community, and they get to see me live for myself. And this is what I tell people when people say, do things, you have to do it for the children. And I said to them, I say, you do it for the children grow up and they leave you. And then you're nobody else. You're finding who you are at that point. I think there's a balance. There's a way you can live for the children, is where you can live for yourself and not lose yourself in living for the children. So my girls know me. I like to go to the beach on Friday. I like to hang out. They know. They will see me getting dressed. Everybody will suggest what we should wear. I will go out. We will hang out. I spend a lot of time with them. We talk. My mom was a very disciplined parent in the African sense of discipline. But it's so funny that she was the parent that would discipline us, beat us, but she's our closest person. To this day, everybody will call my mom the moment everybody, mom, should we like, we still very cool. I don't know how she did that, but yeah, she maintained that with us. I'm a very talking person. I'm like, let's talk about it. How does it make you feel? Do you want to cry about it first? And my sister is the bad cop. She's the bad cop co-parents, and then you're going to naughty corner. You did something wrong. We're not doing it.
Not talking.
But yeah, so let's talk about it. Plus, I think that because they're girls, and in a society where girls are not encouraged to be expressive, I think I sometimes overcompensate and want them to be a little bit overly expressive, because the 9-year-old is always coming back. Today they said we can't play football. Girls can play football. So I want to be enrolled in a football class. I say, huh? They say girls can play basketball. Mommy, can you find a basketball class? I'm like, you don't have to do everything they say girls can't.
Do you have people saying that I think we had a conversation, like it comes back all the time, but I'm just like saying that you act Western, that being a feminist is not grounded in African values and principle, or even Sierra Leonean ones. How do you respond to that, and how do you position yourself within this type of discourse?
I think everybody has some sort of ignorance will say that, and it's a common thing when people don't read. I always say this. I said the thing you need to do is take a little bit more time. If you don't like something, read about it still. Then you have armor to talk about it. You're not talking from assumptions. You're reading about it. So in those conversations where people say, "Oh, Africans are quick to say, nah, that you went to school out of here because you." I'm always quick to say, first of all, I went to all schools here, including first degree. I lived in this community all my life. I think even my mom, that in her own day would say spare the rod and spoil the child, so they will not touch. In fact, if somebody mistakes and starts shouting at her grandchildren, she will start saying to you, even you, who even trained you? They didn't train you properly. You want to train somebody else. She changed, right? She got new information. She's not that person anymore. So I think when people say because you're Western, I say because you get new information. And even myself, there are things I used to say before that when I say them now, I say, why did I even ever believe in that? But I give myself grace because I know that if I have a new information about certain things, I'm going to change that. So it doesn't annoy me when people say you're feminist because you're Western. I say to them, I'm not Western, first of all. Look at me. Second of all, if a Western education helps you to see things differently, that's a plus you have to use. Third of all, feminism can never be a Western thing. I don't believe that. I believe my grandma was feminist. My mom told me stories of my grandma taking her, for example, my mom is the last. Her dad, according to her, loved her to death. So in the village setting, her dad did not want her to go to school. He just wanted her to be around them. Her mom took her without her dad's consent and sent her to a big sister to go to school. I don't know what's more feminist than that. In a society that you can say to your husband, in an African traditional society, and say, I'm not doing this, my child is going to go to school. That is what feminism is. And I say to people, it's because you think feminism is only based on who is cooking and who is not cooking. That is why you think it's a Western thing. But there's so many fights that women in our communities, our grandmothers, our great-grandmothers have done that we're standing on. And the reason why some of us can stand and speak is because of sacrifices our mothers have done. And those are all, in my opinion, feminist sacrifices. And they're African women, born, raised, rooted in Africa. So that conversation, I'm like, yeah, it's because you don't read. You're ignorant. You need to learn more. You need to read more. You need to, if you want to challenge me on my values that I know about, study about it too. And then you have enough power to challenge me on that. So, yeah.
So what do you love most about being African?
I think I love our differences. I love the French accents. When the French, they're speaking like, you have a French accent. There are people like, for example, the Wolof, the French, the English. Like we have we're so similar in so many ways, but we're different in so many ways. And I think that's the thing about Africans. If we meet here, we will all talk about the things that are different, but we all still find the things that are similar. And I think if we continue to hold on to those things, it's easier for us. So when people say, in different countries, people are attacking different people and we're all the same people, it's because they haven't chosen. They have been conditioned by the system to see so much of our differences as opposed to our similarities. I think I love the vibe. I think Africans, we have a vibe. We have a vibe. Like if we enter a space here and there are other people that are not Africans, we own the space. Like we're not afraid to own spaces. When we see each other in spaces where we're different, we quickly connect to each other. I think everybody does that. People connect quickly to their own people, but it's just there's a certain vibe of being African that's, I don't know. We
Can't describe it's just a vibe.
We have a vibe.
Feel it. The rings. Can you see my face? If you were to describe what Sierra Leone is to someone like me who has never been there.
Oh, you should come.
I'm ready to come. I've always been ready to come. I don't even know why I haven't been there. This is very strange. I have kind of been there just because we are part of a region in Guinea that borders Sierra Leone and Liberia.
Okay.
And I was on the other side of that border. But listen, it was not clear enough. So I need to really go.
Enter.
Yeah. But if you were to tell me, what would you say?
One thing I will say is you will meet like the nicest people. Like Sierra Leoneans are really warm people. Like really, really warm. Like especially if they know you're a stranger, like you've come like you get help easily. You know what I remember being on in the streets of Ireland with my suitcases when I was going to go study, 2 suitcases, trying to figure out where my room was, my apartment. Everybody was passing, nobody talked. I alone, my suitcases, I found my way to go up those steps. Nobody even asked me, do you need help? It will not happen in Sierra Leone. I'm telling you, if I had those 2 suitcases, someone would pass, hey, but why they toss this to you? And sometimes they even make you a fight. Well, you not say you're a woman, why they toss this to you? And then somebody will just... So I think I immediately realized, oh no, I'm not home. Like, yeah, Sierra Leoneans are like really, really warm people. Like we're very warm. We like people. We like enjoyments. We like our beaches. we really, and we're I don't want to use the word resilience because
it's been a development program.
We're tired of being resilient, but quote unquote, we're resilient people. Like the worst thing can happen to us today. We will joke about it in that moment. Like maybe it's also a trauma response. Because
trauma response is the vibe.
I also don't know if it's a good thing, because why are we not serious about things? Why is everything comedy for us?
Maybe you are serious.
But yeah.
You can still laugh and be serious.
Yeah. That's what we do. I think we laugh so much and forget about it. And we put it under, and then something else happens. Then we remember. This was the same thing that happened to us. And then we'll find something funny and then we'll put it under. Then something else happens.
On top, yeah, because it never stops.
Yes.
And so you and I believe a lot of Sierra Leoneans want these things to stop so that we don't have to pile up trauma over trauma over trauma, but more piling up good memories, inspiring ones, joyful ones, and just
that's the goal. But I think we'll get there. I'm positive. We'll get there.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too. It was nice being here with you.
Very nice.
Let me ring shows.
Thank you so much for trusting me with your story, for taking the time, for being so open.
Thank you.